Welcome to Wisdom Moments. I'm your host, Sandra Boyd, and today I have my partner and co founder of TalentWise Collective, the amazing Kirsten, is come to join us to talk about one of our favorite topics and something that both Kirsten and I have, certainly for my 30 years, for her 20 years of experience, has been a huge part of our journey in the talent space is talking about career management, taking control of your professional journey. And I just want to say for myself, as I said before, have over 30 years experience in this. I've written two books on the subject. I've written a chapter in a textbook. I don't know how many articles I've authored. Helped design and develop with Kirsten, who's also, probably delivered hundreds of workshops and designed and developed herself workshops and worked with me on this topic, career management, taking control of your professional career. And the reason why it's so important is that more people will spend more time on buying an electronic device than they will at actually investing in their own career and managing their career. They usually, I hear stories over and over again where I got to where I am because, that's where my boss led me, or that's where the company gave me the opportunities. And there's actually no time to really just reflect and take control. So, Kirsten, welcome to the show. I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Me too. Absolutely. It's been a key part of our careers and what we've been passionate about for a long time.
Mm.
Um, and you're right. When we say we don't spend as much time, Sandra, you and I have often joked that we know everything that we should do in our careers and reflection and updating resumes. And so what we're going to share today will be a lot of, the things that we know we should do. We also recognize as professionals that sometimes the things that we're going to talk about are hard to do, but breaking them down into smaller steps today helps maintain that momentum. Right. So we are like, Sandra, what's your phrase that you say? It's like we're
The
the
hairdressers that don't do their own hair sometimes. But I do believe it's, we understand and we have applied it to our career. But yes, there are times where, there's a couple of times where I've had to say to you, oh, you better help me with my resume. I can't remember my accomplishments. But, and then I started with the accomplishment journey. But this is, although it's an issue that everybody has. I've seen, for CEOs, everybody, no matter where you are on the corporate ladder and the hierarchy within an organization, people are usually so busy managing their jobs that they don't actually manage their careers. But women have unique factors, which, Kirsten, you're going to talk about this. And one of the reasons that, as I was talking to individuals, touching base with our clients prior to the Christmas holidays and New Year's, the one thing that I discovered is people are having a lot of fears around their own jobs, what's happening with organizations, geopolitics, tariffs, and AI, of course. And a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm really afraid that this is going to impact my job. And what they don't realize is they actually have control over, you don't have control over the organization, but you have control over your career. And so today we're going to give you some of the reasons why it's more impactful for women, but we're also, what you're going to walk away from with is some really practical advice and things that are actionable that you can start putting into place right away. So, Kirsten, why don't you talk first about some of those issues or challenges that are unique to women?
Well, and I think it falls into probably many different spheres, but there's societal expectations, and then there's
Yeah.
also our internal narratives, right? In terms of what we tell ourselves. Sandra, I know through the podcast Women on Wisdom, we've talked a lot about sort of societal conditioning, what as women we are sort of raised to believe and feel that we're team players and that we care about the collective. And in all my time, I know in doing career management and career transition and talking and selling yourself, you didn't want to be seen as being self-centered,
Yep.
or even narcissistic, as maybe as one of your last wisdom moments was about. And so we talk about we versus I. And so, I think, and I feel this for myself, there's just a hesitance to self promote and to get out there and to be talking, about ourselves and highlighting what we did, right? For fear that will seem like it's just all about us. Um,
Yeah, and I just sort of wanted to jump in there because I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who was feeling, whether you call it imposter syndrome or, some of the things that you just talked about. And she said, "Yeah, I want to write, give an overview of some of the things that I've accomplished in the last year and how I can help this organization." And she was actually out there looking for a job, and she was so aligned to this position. And she said, I feel like I'm bragging. And I go back to a book, it was years ago, Shameless Self Promotion. And it's not bragging if you actually did it, it's fact. So
mhm.
getting comfortable in saying, I contribute to, I was part of, and not feeling that it's shameless self-promotion. We have to really step away from that mindset and that belief system. So I just want to jump in there on that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, imposter syndrome, I think, is something that many people, like men and women, can all, agree is something that we're plagued with. I know for me, moving into different roles in my life of stepping back into the corporate world and coming back, you were instrumental in, helping me to understand the things that I have done and the things I have accomplished. Um, and not being as fearful, that I know more, I can do more. And so that's one of the things, like, one of the simple things you did tell me was that shameless self promotion, like, do it in a way, Kirsten, that feels comfortable to you. So sometimes I'd flip you over an email, that said, "Hey, like, look what this client said. Like, this is really great," or "I'm proud," or I'd make a joke of it using humor, which was most comfortable for me to be able to do. But then also in meetings and talking about what are our wins, what are our accomplishments. We know when we can talk about as a team our accomplishments, authentically and have pride, you can do it in a way that it's not bragging, it's not like it's self-promotion, but the pride is different, right? And in terms of
Yes.
how we can communicate and how we can share, because one of the things you have always said to me is that you can never assume that your boss knows everything that's going on.
Well, and I think that's the problem with a lot of people. And I've heard this over the years when I've been coaching, and I've heard it from CEOs of companies and VPs. And I just say, well, my boss should know what I'm doing. My boss knows I led that project. However, you got to understand your boss isn't a mind reader, and they need to be reminded, like everybody else. They've got a million things, that they're dealing with, and every accomplishment that you made may not be forefront in their mind. And so you have to, in whatever ways that feel comfortable for you, remind them. It may be just a lunch, and or it may be an email that says, "Hey, I'd like to share some of the things that I've been working on with the team," and you can include the team. But also remember, it's not always about the team if you're leading the project or if you've just, you've been instrumental in specific ways. You have to get the I in there every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the other key things that sometimes comes up and appears is that, um, a sense that our what we're doing, if we perform well, that it's going to be known and it's going to be recognized,
Yeah.
and that that we don't have to strategize in terms of how we're doing it. And so it is important, like, it comes back to making sure that we are deliberate and that we recognize we're in a company of, a few of us, on the leadership team. And, in the fall, I realized that we'd work on very different things, Sandra, you and I, and that we'd sort of lost touch from, like, what else am I working on that you're not involved in? And so you're right, that, like, importance of just putting together, some notes and to say, here's everything that I'm doing. And here's, where things are at, was helpful, right? Because I assumed that you
Oh,
knew. and you
so
didn't.
helpful. I didn't know, and but it's crazy, and I was so happy. It wasn't as if I thought, "Oh, look at Kirsten bragging of all the things she's involved in." It was actually quite the opposite. It was like, "Thank you for sharing because I had no idea that you were doing all of this and that you were working in that on those projects." And I just also want to say this is not just for those people that are working. It's also for people that are looking for work right now as you're writing your resume and thinking about, and it's hard to write a resume because you have to think about all of your accomplishments. You should be keeping an accomplishment journal. I think that's really, really important as you're working through and looking at what have I accomplished in the last year, not even the last year. I do this every 3 months. I sort of sit down and have a reflective moment, but we'll talk about more about that.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and then some of the things that we haven't yet talked about, even still with, I mean, you started off talking about time, that we
Mm,
spend more time researching other things that we're going to purchase. I moved into a new house. I know I researched everything about like stemware for glasses and mini bar fridges. Haven't yet thought about my career. So there's this double burden, even beyond that, having kids and having families, or other responsibilities, the double burden that I know we've also talked about, in that, there's so much time that we spend caregiving or looking after others, or, looking after households, that we often don't have enough time, or feel we don't have enough time. And so part of, I know we have a campaign, that we're going to have coming up, is about, starting just with awareness. And as I said at the beginning, small steps that we can take towards, making progress, and starting with thinking and reflection. And that's going to be a
yeah.
key part. Not everything means you need to make drastic changes or do it, but trying to find ways to make space or little pockets of time for some of that
Yes.
reflection. Yeah.
And I just want to say for all those mothers, and I've heard this a million times. I spend hours at the hockey rink on the weekend, or at the ballet or tap dance or gymnastics or whatever it is, sitting there, and so I don't have a lot of time. And I usually ask them, "What do you do?" Oh, I scroll social media. I, I catch up on work. What a great opportunity to start, taking, if you're there for 2 hours, say, I'm going to, while in between watching, my child and what they're doing, but I'm also going to start writing down, or asking myself some questions. And I think there's some questions like, what are my strengths? What's my areas of development? Asking like, who am I? What am I enjoying at work? What am I not enjoying? So I don't know. Continue on, Kirsten. You're the guru in this.
Well, no, absolutely. Reflection is foundational. To stop and to pause and to think, and not feel like, especially coming into January, New Year's resolutions, and as you mentioned, having a sense of fear from a lot of our clients, and people that we know and work with, is. It may or may not be something that needs a drastic change, but start with just that reflection. And as you said, thinking about what is your value, what skills do you have? And when we look at writing, resumes, or we look at job titles, or we look at job tasks, they're short, they're concise. There's so much else that goes behind it. And so don't assume, that everything that you know or are able to do is what is reflected in that space in terms of what you do. Particularly, of course, looking forward, there's elements of AI that you need to be considering, automation, and the future, having an eye to the future in terms of not necessarily just what you do now, but what can you do, and how are you going to maintain your relevancy to your organization and to future opportunities that come. So, as we said, talking about, like, thinking about your accomplishments, thinking about the value that you add, what you've done and the value it adds, and then being able to articulate it. And that's a key thing that I think sometimes we do forget, as we just said, forget to do.
Yeah, I always used to like, I mean, there's the STAR formula and there's all this. I used to use the CAR formula, challenge, action, result, and wrote
Yeah.
about that because it's actually the easiest way to kind of think what was the challenge I was given by the organization. Like I had to save money. It doesn't have to be that. It can be, I need to build this, or I need to, whatever it is that you needed to do, the action that you and the team took or you took yourself, and then what was the result to the organization. And it can be financial, or it can be, helping raise awareness. There's so many different areas that everybody thinks it has to be about the bottom line. I saved 20%. Or increased by $1 million. It's not true. It's other things that matter within the organization. And I think it's also good to reflect, are you aligned with where the organization's going? So, taking a look, what's my boss's goal? What's the organization's goals? And how does the projects and everything that I work on align to that, so that people know that I'm moving with the organization? Because there's no use that you are accomplishing way over here if nobody really cares about it. You have to make sure that what you're accomplishing is really aligned to your boss and the organization itself.
Yeah. Yep. No, absolutely. The value that you add to them. And that sort of relates to one of the next key things is, your brand. And so
Mm.
what you do, what you're accomplishing, what you become known for, your brand, or, some people I know over the past have pushed back against, well, no, it's not a brand. They don't like the term. So maybe it's a reputation, what you're known for, whatever the label is what are you known for? And so are you doing the things you want to be known for? Are you doing things that really matter to them? And so that's a really important question as well. That sometimes from the work that we've done with clients, some people can show up and say, yes, this is exactly, who I am and what I do. But the majority don't. And if you say, what are you known for? They either sort of freeze when they try to articulate it, or they give a laundry list of, I am
Oh,
known for doing 18 different things. And we'll say, well, a brand can't be that broad, so you need to rein it in. So it's really important, you find out what you're known for, because sometimes we get known for things that are not what we want to be known for, or we want to shift how it is. And then you can figure out, how do you try to actively sort of manage and shift what people think of you for, or volunteer for opportunities that start to position you in a different way within your organization.
yeah, I'd just like to just add a couple of things in regards to reputation, because yes, people do push back on brand, but here's the bottom line on this. You got a reputation whether you like it or not. And so, the question is, are you willing to manage it to create the reputation or the brand that you want people to know you for? And your reputation starts with, talking about practical things. Your reputation starts with things like, do you show up on time? Do you deliver projects on time? Do you say what do what you say, does that happen? And so do people trust you? I think this is really important, because it's about how people experience you. Because if you don't show up on time, if you're not showing up in the right way, are you in bad mood, are you grumpy, whatever that looks like, you not finish things when you said you were supposed to do them, you don't do them thoroughly, you're not active in the sense that you go, hey, I've got an idea, you're engaging in the conversation, then, if people aren't experiencing you in the right way, they're not going to pick you to be part of, the bigger projects or the things that you want. The other thing that people do, and we've talked about this, hurting your reputation. I always like to talk about something that happened to me about 100 years ago that could have taken my career in the opposite direction. I was identified as a leader for implementing, in the consulting company that I worked for, a process that was a big deal, because our office, it was myself and another colleague, we were going to lead it as the guinea pig office. And I was really excited about being picked. But what I discovered once we did everything, and they came in, the CEO and the VP came in with champagne and celebrating, and we were asked to manage it on like we're going global with this, putting this process in, I realized I hated every single moment of it, every single moment. And it was so against who I am. It was about process and detail, all the things that I don't, I don't feel positions me in the right way or brings my best skills and behaviors to the table. And I realized right then and there that I needed to get off that project, and I needed not that to lead with that when I was looking for my next job, because at those days that particular process would have got you a job just like that if you had it on your resume. Especially I was working for a Fortune 100 company. My friend, on the other hand, this became her career. She started working, she ended up getting, because of this project, she got a job at one of the largest pharmaceutical companies, global companies, and traveled all over the world implementing different processes and, and working with. So that was part of her brand. But I had to run away for it, or I would have ended up in a place that I didn't want to be, that would not lead to my own career passions, nor would it have led to career success for me. So I want people to really think about, how they look at their brand. So what are some of the things that people can do to actually manage their brand? What do they have to do?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with probably awareness. I think, if you don't know what your
Yeah.
brand is, ask people. And it can be people at work, it can be people in your personal life that know you, friends, partners, family, whoever, to see, because sometimes we don't know exactly how other people see us. And then putting that time into that reflection in terms of thinking about, who am I? Who do I want to be? What's that alignment between my strengths and what I do, or what I want to do, versus what I'm at, and then starting to talk to people about it. For myself, it was as simple as when people started to say, a long time ago, hey, Kirsten is the financial services coach. And no offense to financial services, but I said, I like marketing and communications. I redirected. So it was, even as simple as saying, I would prefer, or I would like to be working with a different sort of client group. So that reflection, and then sharing and talking and trying to build up, if you don't have credibility in those areas, trying to find opportunities to build them, whether it's within organizations or volunteering or other ways, to build that skill set, so that you do have it. The one thing I would say is, whatever you're going to go out there and say you are and what you want to be, you have to be able to stand behind it. So you have to be able to show and demonstrate that you can deliver on whatever it is that you say.
Yeah, really, really important. And asking people, ask everybody. And even I always used to, what am I known for? What do you think I'm known for? What do you think are my top skill sets? Asking those questions, and even asking people that don't know you very well. You can ask your best buddy at work, and ask your boss, previous bosses, but also venture out into people that may be in different departments as well, because it starts to tell a story, and that story may not be the one that you want told, so you might want to reconnect or recorrect at that point, and start saying, okay, I've got to be more intentional. I've got to be a little bit more focused, and I've got to recognize that this may not, just like I did, may not be going in the direction I want it to go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think that one of the last key things is, Sandra, and I'm gonna put this over to you, because between the two of us, our last sort of key idea of something that's super important. I was raised with a mom who, has worked in this industry as well, who always talked about the importance of networking from when I was very young, and introducing me to people, having conversations, and going through all kinds of stuff as a teen, and exploring and talking to people about my career. And so, this idea of networking, which is something I still actively have to work on, but for you, it's been more natural skill. So what is, what can you offer to people in terms of how to network, or what that looks like from a practical standpoint?
Yes. You know, I think that networking is a key to career success. I absolutely feel that it's the number one thing that you can do. So you should be, first of all, recognizing that networking is not just about running out and, talking to a couple of people within your organization. There's external and internal networking. You should be focused on if you've got a specific career or profession that you're in, and say, for instance, you're an accountant, you're a consultant, you should be networking outside, volunteering out, within that industry or that profession. You should be knowing what's going on, having coffee with people. And this is really about scheduling time. If again, you've got time to go to the hockey game, you've got time to go out, you've got time to, have lunch with somebody else, invite them out for lunch, get their career advice. Be, I feel that, 80% of the success within my career was because I continued relentlessly. No, I wouldn't say relentlessly, but I would say I I put networking as something that I did on a regular basis. I was always booking a month in advance to have coffee with someone, to have a conversation. It makes it so much easier now. And I would network with the competition. I would network with, individuals that, that were within my industry that I didn't know. It just keeping in contact with people on a regular basis. And here's why you need to do this. And I've seen it a million times. We've worked in career transition. And the one thing is that we'd see, no matter what level of the organization, someone would be let go from their job or downsized from their job, and they'd been so busy working that they had not taken time out for their own network. And what they realized is, and it's important to network within your organization. If you're in accounting, talk to the people in marketing. You get things done. People who network across an organization actually get things done much faster, and they are able to connect, and they're able to accomplish things much quicker than individuals that don't know anybody within their organization or outside their particular business unit. But what I find with going back to this, you get let go from your organization, you don't know anybody. And you start reaching out to recruiters and you start reaching out to the competition, and you don't have any connections. And people sometimes feel like you're reaching out to me because you need a job. Or there's those people that feel that I'm not going to talk to someone, a recruiter who reaches out to me or somebody from the competition because I'm loyal to the company. Well, that I'm going to call bull on that. And because you need to be talking to everyone so that when you do are looking for an opportunity, you have people that will naturally want to help you and support you. The other thing I see on a regular basis is people who don't actively manage their LinkedIn. And I will say to you, that is yes, as and can I share,
That's me.
Kirsten, that I gave yesterday. I said to Kirsten, you are not doing your job. You are not managing your LinkedIn. You are not pushing things out. Like, you don't have to go out there and do what we're doing, the videos, or you don't have to be pushing out or writing stuff every day. But once a week, go on there, read somebody else's stuff, like it. Also, make a comment. Making a comment's really important. If you see somebody talking about something that's really important to you or to your career or to your profession, link in with them. Create the that online connection so that if you decide to leave your organization or you're being asked to leave your organization, you have this wonderful network that you can go to, and you have a book that's a contact book. I use LinkedIn. I'm open. I have it open every single day, and I go through my contacts on a regular basis. And what was really interesting for me in my business was before Christmas, I went through my LinkedIn and realized I had a number of people that were been promoted to, to some really great positions and were doing some really great work. And now I have this list of people that I'm going to be reaching out to over the next month or so. So my practical advice on this is, you know, reach out to at least two people a month. I challenge all of you. Reach out to two people a month, have coffee with them, link in with them, do something. Start creating that networking that people know who you are. Volunteer at an association meeting. Show up at an association meeting because no one's going to be doing this for you. The company is not going to take care of your network. You have to be the person to take control. All of these things you have to take control of.
Yeah. Well, and so, and I want to say, Sandra, you are a super user. So for people who are kind of more like me, yeah, start small, and as Sandra said, doesn't need to be, as big and as active. My goal is just to take some of these steps to look more regularly, to post more regularly. And two people, I'm like, I can probably do two people a month. I think we'll see. We'll check back in later this year and see
I
how I'm
think we need
tracking.
to. Yeah. So I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear how often people actually are linking, are using LinkedIn and networking. So whether it's you're networking with 10 people a month or two people a month, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And just to sort of wrap up this conversation. And Kirsten, thank you because I know you do so many workshops on this. Taking the time to reflect and which is foundational. Know where you are, know where you're feeling about where you are and what you're doing and the work that you're doing. Really think about the value that you're adding to your job, your current skills. Do you have the right skills for today? Do you need to update your skills? Do you understand AI? And then your brand, build your brand, manage your brand. Because I will say this over and over again, you do have a reputation, but is it the reputation that you actually want? And then take time out to network. And I would challenge all of you to start today. So thank you, Kirsten, for being here and sharing your wisdom. And women, we have to work twice as hard. So, let's actively manage our careers. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.